Shasta rises alone from the forests of northern California, a solitary pillar of rock and ice more than 14,000 feet high. And from the moment people first saw it on the horizon, it has exuded an almost supernatural presence, its immense vertical relief soaring straight up from the green valley floor without the company of neighboring peaks creates an effect unlike that of any ordinary mountain range. On clear days, its snow-capped summit gleams like a beacon, visible for miles across the plain, and there is an ineffable sense that this is not simply part of our world, but a threshold into something beyond it, for a century's native peoples, the Wintu, Modoc. And Shasta tribes revered the peak as sacred ground, a place where ancestral spirits dwelled and the veil between human life and the spirit realm grew thin. Early explorers and settlers soon picked up on the same feeling, reporting inexplicable lights dancing across its slopes, footsteps that faded into silence, and an almost magnetic pull that drew pilgrims, visionaries, and wanderers into its shadow. In the language of mystics, it became known as a thin place, a geographical portal where everyday rules falter and legends step forward into reality. That sense of otherworldliness only deepened when, in the late 1800s, stories emerged of a hidden city beneath the mountain, inhabited by tall, luminous beings called Lemurians whose advanced knowledge seemed to transcend time itself, whether viewed through the lens of indigenous myth, occult writings, or modern paranormal investigation. Mount Shasta remains more than a mere backdrop for hiking or skiing. It stands as an enduring symbol of the boundary between the known and unknown, a living gateway that promises, to those daring enough to look and listen, a glimpse of worlds that lie just beyond our ordinary perception, asterisk long before 20th century tales of UFOs or lost continents ever reached the shadow of Mount Shasta. The great peak stood at the very heart of the living traditions of the Wintu, Modoc, and Shasta peoples. To these native tribes, the mountain was no mere geographic feature, but a sacred being in its own right, a home to ancestral spirits, nature guardian deities, and otherworldly entities whose presence infused every forested slope, glacial ridge, and rushing creek with a power beyond ordinary perception. Elders told of vision quests in which hunters or medicine practitioners, guided by dream visions, would ascend to hidden springs or cave entrances to commune with ancient presences and return bearing age. Healing songs, prayers, and warnings for their people. Oral histories insist that the mountain's energy lines converge in great subterranean chambers, forming a nexus of spiritual force that connects the human realm with invisible dimensions. In these narratives, Shasta's spark of power predates any written record, centuries, if not millennia, before European explorers set eyes on its snow-capped summit and serves as the wellspring for a wide array of ceremonies, seasonal renewals, rites of passage, and rites to honor the natural cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. Even everyday activities, gathering acorns, fishing in the McCloud River, or tracking game, were accompanied by prayers of respect to the mountain's inhabitants. For the tribes believed that failure to acknowledge the unseen guardians could bring illness, misfortune, or ecological imbalance. This worldview held that humans, animals, plants, rocks, and spirits all belong to a single fabric of existence, woven together by the sacred presence of Shasta itself. As European settlers arrived and began to map, mine, and log the region, they too remarked on an almost magnetic attraction that drew men and women into the mountain's vicinity, though they often lacked the cultural framework to interpret it as anything more than mysterious. Yet even in early settler diaries one finds references to inexplicable dreams, whispered voices carried on the wind, and inexplicable phenomena echoes, perhaps, of the same spiritual forces the native peoples had long recognized. Today, while New Age enthusiasts chase stories of hidden cities and high-tech Lemurian beings beneath the ice, the original sacred traditions of the Wintu, Modoc, and Shasta remain the most enduring testament to Mount Shasta's place as a living, breathing center of spiritual energy and ancestral sanctuary whose power transcends the passing fashions of myth and legend, and reminds all who approach it that some mysteries belong not to a fanciful future, but to the ancient heart of the land itself, asterisk long ago, according to the most enduring legends of Mount Shasta. A great cataclysm swallowed the sunken continent of Lemuria beneath the waves, and yet a handful of its people escaped the deluge, driven by visions of a new sanctuary high in the North American mountains. These survivors, known ever since as the Lemurians, are said to have ventured into the heart of Shasta and carved from living rock a secret city they named Telos. There, deep beneath the snow and ice, they fashioned grand halls of gleaming crystal that pulsed within a light, their walls plated in precious metals that caught and refracted every ray into dancing rainbows. In this hidden realm the Lemurians dwell, graceful beings often described as 7 feet in height, their skin pale as moonlight and their hair like spun silver moved through corridors hung with gemstones that served both as ornament and power source. Round their elegant necks they wore collars set with these same stones, each one a focus for energies modern science has yet to name or fully comprehend. For in Telos the inhabitants had mastered forces beyond ordinary human grasp. They bent gravity backward to lift cigar-shaped aerial vessels that hovered at will, and they shaped electromagnetic currents into silent vehicles that darted through their underground avenues and then vanished skyward in a flash of opalescent glow. Perhaps most astonishing of all was the Lemurian gift of inner sight, an organ nestled in the center of the forehead, the so-called third eye, which allowed them to perceive the thoughts of others, to will matter into motion, and even to render themselves unseen should they choose. In Telos every chamber was a seamless union of art, technology, and spirit, floors of polished gemstone, ceilings that glowed as if lit by a suspended artificial sun, and arches carved with symbols of cosmic harmony. Their laboratories harnessed vibrations of time and space, while their libraries etched on crystalline tablets contained philosophies and mathematical insights that, some say, anticipate quantum mechanics and unified field theories by millennia. Though the world above marched through cycles of war, discovery, and decay, the city beneath Shasta endured as a living testament to what a civilization might become when intellect, technology, and spiritual wisdom were held in perfect balance. Even now, those who claim to have glimpsed Telos, whether in trance, dream, or the hush of a moonlit forest, describe the same breathtaking vistas, grand plazas paved in luminous stone, silent gardens where crystalline fountains sing with living light, and the distant whisper of Lemurian voices chanting in harmony with the heartbeat of the mountain itself. Whether Telos remains an unconfirmed myth or a hidden reality awaiting rediscovery, the tale of the Lemurians continues to captivate our deepest longings, the hope that somewhere beyond the bounds of the very-day life, a realm of pure knowledge and peaceful power endures, patiently waiting for humankind to awaken to its own higher potential, in the summer of 1883. A 16-year-old Frederick Spencer Oliver was laying claim markers near the base of Mount Shasta when an uncanny force seized. His armament compelled him to write pages of cryptic narrative he could neither understand nor control. Day after day, people piled up as Oliver's hand moved in a trance, channeling vivid descriptions of a hidden civilization beneath the mountain's crystal-lit halls, metal-clad walls, and gravity-defying vessels until, 12 years later, the manuscript took the form of a book titled A Dweller onto Planets 1905. Oliver always maintained that he was merely the scribe for an otherworldly intelligence Lemurian emissaries who chose him as their conduit to reveal the lost history of Lemuria and the subterranean city of Telos. Once published, his revelations ignited the imaginations of occultists, spiritualists, and esoteric societies eager for proof that human potential extended beyond the material realm. Readers were enthralled by his accounts of luminous Lemurian beings, their soaring anti-gravity cigar ships, and subterranean railways that anticipated magnetic levitation technology by generations. Within a few years, secret study groups were dissecting Oliver's texts for hidden codes. Crystal healing circles were reenacting Lemurian energy rituals, and visionary artists were illustrating scenes of the fabled city's opalescent spires. Though skeptics dismissed automatic writing as mere parlor trickery, to the burgeoning New Age and occult communities it represented a direct link to ancient wisdom, evidence that beneath the quiet slop east of Shasta lay a civilization whose scientific and spiritual achievements challenged the limits of modern thought. In 1931, Harvey Spencer Lewis, the charismatic founder of the Rosicrucian order in America, introduced Mount Shasta's subterranean city of Telos into a grand tapestry of esoteric lore that already included Atlantis, ancient Egypt, and the secret wisdom of the Himalayas. Writing under the pseudonym Serv, Lewis presented Telos not as an isolated legend, but as a crucial nodal point in a global network of mystical civilizations, each linked by hidden energy currents and guarded by enlightened adepts. His teachings described Telos as a dimensional gateway where the advanced Lemurian technology of anti-gravity ships and crystalline energy harmonized with spiritual practices designed to elevate human consciousness. Lewis's Rosicrucian lodges began incorporating these ideas into their rituals, meditative visualizations, and symbolic art, creating a living tradition that bridged Eastern mysticism, Western alchemy, and the New World's own mythic heritage. By the 1950s, the legend of Telos had escaped the confines of secret societies and entered the broader New Age milieu. Meditation circles formed in Shasta's shadow, attracting seekers who claimed to experience telepathic contact with Lemurian intelligences, to receive healing energy in the glacial springs, or to glimpse crystal-lit caverns during trance states. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, informal pilgrimages swelled as spiritual groups drawn by rumors of a thin place where dimensions converged camped at the mountain's base to conduct dawn and dusk ceremonies intended to open hidden doorways. These gatherings blended Native American drumming, Eastern-style mantra chanting, and Western ceremonial magic, reflecting a syncretic spirituality that viewed Telos as both a literal city beneath the earth and a metaphor for an elevated state of collective human awareness. Into the 1980s, accounts of miraculous healings, prophetic dreams, and sightings of tall, white-robed figures continued to surface in local newspapers and underground newsletters. Workshop leaders offered Lemurian activations promising to awaken the third eye and unlock latent psychic abilities, while independent researchers published maps marking alleged tunnel entrances and vortex points. Down Shastas, slopes. Although mainstream scholars dismissed these phenomena as wishful thinking or misinterpreted natural occurrences, the esoteric adoption of Telos had already cemented the mountain's reputation as a living laboratory of spiritual evolution where ancient myth, personal transformation, and collective yearning for higher knowledge intersect in an ever-unfolding mystery. Asterisk over the decades. Mount Shasta has inspired not only legends but a remarkable series of eyewitness reports and newspaper accounts that seem to bring its hidden mysteries tantalizingly close to the surface of everyday life. As early as May 22, 1932, the Los Angeles Times ran the account of Edward Lancer, a train passenger who, upon rounding the southern slope, witnessed a sudden, unearthly glow pulsing across the mountain's face. When he inquired, railway staff and local ranchers alike told him he had seen the Lemurians performing one of their ancient rituals, the light and offering to the lost continent of Lemuria. Less than a decade later, in June 1940, the Stockton record published Professor Edward Larkin's extraordinary observation while calibrating his telescope at Mount Lowe Observatory. He claimed to glimpse a grand marble temple columns, pediments, and all nestled against the snow line. When he trained his lens there again minutes later, the temple had simply vanished. These mainstream reports echoed persistent folklore, but the tales grew still more personal in the 1970s, when a group of campers at Panther Springs described a silent, statuesque woman in flowing white robes stepping from the forest's edge, immersing herself in the icy creek for 5 minutes, then retreating into the trees as if she had never been. Local newspapers carried stories of a farmer on the eastern slopes whose parched fields were saved overnight by instructions from a mysterious robed stranger who taught him an unknown method of irrigation. The next morning his crops thrived and the stranger was gone. Similarly, motorists stranded on remote mountain roads have told of a lone figure who appeared from the woods to tinker under their hoods, restarting engines that moments before had been dead, then fading back into the forest without a backward glance. While skeptics attribute these anecdotes to misperception, collective myth-making, or simple wish fulfillment, for believers they form a compelling mosaic, lights that dance without heat, temples that appear and disappear, beings who intervene in human affairs with kindness and vanish like mist. Each account, whether printed in a respected regional paper or whispered among hikers round a campfire, reinforces the notion that Mount Shasta is more than a geological landmark. It is a living threshold, one where the extraordinary can surface unexpectedly in the most ordinary circumstances, and where those who claim to have witnessed Lemurian light, healing, or companionship return forever changed, convinced that beneath the snow and stone lies a world that defies the limitations of our everyday reality. Asterisk, beneath Mount Shasta's tranquil exterior lies a hidden realm that, according to intrepid explorers and local rumor alike, reveals itself only to those deemed worthy. One of the earliest modern accounts came from a certain Dr. Dorel, who claimed to have stumbled upon a vast subterranean cavern lit not by fire but by an artificial sun suspended in midair. Inside, he reported, crystalline formations glowed with their own inner radiance, and the very air seemed charged with a gentle vibration, as if every molecule thrummed with unseen energy. Decades earlier, in 1904, British geologist J.C. Brown believed he had found a more tangible gateway, a narrow tunnel cutting into the western slope of Shasta, its copper-inlaid walls gleaming beneath the flicker of his lantern. Following the passage for miles, Brown came upon an underground labyrinth of grand chambers filled with towering mummies, some as tall as 10 feet, draped in ceremonial gold and bronze garb. He sketched meticulous maps and arranged for a full-scale expedition in 1934, only to vanish the night before departure, leaving colleagues to wonder whether the mountain itself had swallowed him or if, perhaps, he had been called onward into the hidden city of Telos. Since then, seekers have returned time and again, sometimes guided by dream visions or mysterious symbols carved on trees, only to find tunnel mouths that appear for a moment in moonlight before dissolving into solid rock. These ephemeral entrances, said to open only for the chosen, have fed an enduring belief that Shasta's underworld is both real and selectively accessible. A secret domain where advanced Lemurian technology and crystalline architecture remain intact, waiting for the next pilgrim brave enough to cross the threshold. Asterisk, at the heart of the Mount Shasta legends lie questions that bridge archaeology, metaphysics, and the human psyche. Might the Lemurians be the last survivors of an antediluvian landmass swallowed by cataclysm? Visitors from a parallel dimension slipping through the cracks of our reality? Or simply the collective invention of generations yearning for a more harmonious world? Our fascination with these tall, white-skinned beings and their crystalline city of Telos speaks to a deep-seated longing for hidden wisdom and intuitive sense that modern technological progress, unmoored from spiritual grounding, has left us spiritually impoverished. The recurring reports of ghostly lights dancing on Shasta's slopes, mysterious figures who appear to help and then vanish, and accounts of telepathic communication all serve to keep the legend alive, inviting each new witness to reinterpret the boundary between myth and empirical fact. These unexplained phenomena do more than tantalize. They function as cultural magnets, drawing seekers who hope to reconcile scientific rationality with transcendent experience. Each sighting or psychic revelation becomes both evidence and catalyst, reinforcing communal belief even as skeptics chalk the events up to optical illusions, wish fulfillment, or natural geophysical quirks. Yet perhaps the most enduring mystery is not whether Lemurians exist in a material sense, but why the story continues to resonate so powerfully. In an age defined by data and measurable outcomes, Mount Shasta reminds us that some questions about origins, purpose, and the possibility of worlds beyond our own defy definitive answers and instead live on in the spaces between belief and doubt. By contemplating whether Telos is a buried chapter of human history, a dimensional crossroads, or an archetypal myth springing from our collective unconscious, we confront our own desire for a connection to the earth, to one another, and to levels of awareness that transcend the routines of daily life. In that sense, the real gateway Mount Shasta offers may not be a secret tunnel beneath its peak, but the invitation to explore the uncharted territories within ourselves where every flicker of light or whisper in the wind becomes an open question, urging us to consider that reality might be far more mysterious and far more wondrous than we dare to imagine. Now is your chance to step into the conversation and decide for yourself where you stand between belief and doubt. Do you think the stories of Mount Shasta's hidden city and its Lemurian inhabitants spring from Genuine encounters with another worldly reality, or are they the natural outgrowth of imagination, myth-making, and our collective yearning for something beyond the everyday? Perhaps you have your own tale of inexplicable lights on a moonlit mountainside, a dream so vivid it felt like a visitation. Or a family legend of strangers in white robes offering guidance when all hope seemed lost. Share those experiences and any theories you've developed, whether geological, psychological, or spiritual, and help us piece together the mosaic of eyewitness accounts, native lore, and New Age speculation. And if you're still hungry for more mysteries, stay tuned for our next deep dive, where we'll journey to other thin places around the globe, the submerged temples of Lake Vani in Siberia, the ley-lined crossroads of Glastonbury Tor, and the desert mazes of New Mexico where UFO sightings and ancient petroglyphs converge. We'll compare these hotspots to Shasta's legends, examine parallels in world mythologies from Lemuria to Atlantis to the hidden city of Agatha, and bring in scientists studying seismic anomalies, electromagnetic vortices, and the psychology of mystical experience. Whether you join as a skeptic seeking natural explanations or as a seeker hoping to validate the extraordinary, your voice matters. Leave a comment, post a theory, or respond with your own recordings or photos. Together, we'll map the frontier between the known and the unknown and ask the questions that define our human quest. Is there a hidden realm waiting beneath the Earth's crust? Or do these tales point instead to unmined depths within our own consciousness? The next chapter of our exploration promises fresh evidence, expert interviews, and perhaps even the hint of an entrance that appears only when we're ready to see it. Don't miss it.